This is the second classification video on specific domains and kingdoms. A domain contains one or more kingdoms. The first domain we'll talk about is the archaea domain. Archaea domain consists of organisms that are unicellular, which means they're made up of one cell. They're prokaryotes, which means they have no nucleus, and they live in extreme environments. So that's the first domain. The second domain are known as bacteria. Bacteria are also unicellular, or one-celled. They're also prokaryotes, which means they have no nucleus or organelles, but they live in normal environments. The third domain is the eukaryote domain. Eukaryotes are multicellular and sometimes unicellular, so they can be both. And they are eukaryotes, which means they have a nucleus. So this is the biggest group, domains. We have three domains, the archaea, the bacteria, and the eukarya. Now, underneath domains are kingdoms. Sometimes one kingdom goes with a domain, sometimes many kingdoms go with domains. So we'll take the archaea domain first. The only kingdom that fits in the archaea domain are the archaea bacteria. Okay? And archaea bacteria, like I said, live in extreme environments. For example, next to deep sea vent volcanoes, in hot sulfur pits like in Yellowstone, on top of mountains where it's like very cold or lack of rain. So archaea bacteria, right, are one-celled prokaryotes that live in extreme environments. And I asked you to draw a picture. So if I'm thinking about a bacteria, there's the membrane, cell membrane. It's got DNA. It's got a cytoplasm. It's got ribosomes. And I'm going to put this one, let's see, we'll put it on top of a mountain. You guys know I can't draw. Okay, so archaea bacteria, other characteristics of archaea bacteria is they can be producers or consumers. Next we have the bacteria domain. Only one kingdom fits under the bacteria domain. That's the eubacteria. Just like archaea bacteria, eubacteria are one-celled. They have a cell membrane. They have DNA. And they have ribosomes. Just like the archaea bacteria, eubacteria can be producers or consumers. But they live in more normal environments, right? So they live in water, like lakes or rivers. They live in soil. They live on our skin. Okay, they live in our intestines and help us break down food. Right? They live in yogurt. So eubacteria live in much more normal environments. So to give you an example, here are some pictures of archaeobacteria. They live in hot springs, under glaciers, and acid lakes. Right? So this is like a really hot spring in Yellowstone. This is deep under the ocean, the little cones of volcanoes, the deep sea vents. There'll be bacteria living on these cones. Okay? So archaeobacteria live in swamps. They live in hot springs and hydrothermal vents. They live in salty areas. They live in areas nothing else can live in. They're pretty amazing. Eubacteria are much like archaeobacteria. They can be autotrophs or heterotrophs, producers or consumers. Here's some example of bacteria. Some do photosynthesis. Some cause disease. Some they live in normal environments. So here's some examples of eubacteria. Streptococcus is a bacteria that causes strep throat. E. coli. Some E. coli help us digest our food, and some other kinds can cause food poisoning. Lactobacillus vulgaris. This is a bacteria that helps make yogurt. So eubacteria you see everywhere. After bacteria, we're going to get into the Protista kingdom, which is under a different domain called eukarya. So the third domain we're going to look at is eukarya. Eukarya are multicellular or single-cellular organisms, but they're eukaryotes. They have a nucleus. So the first kingdom we're going to look at is the kingdom Protista. Okay. Protista, these organisms, are one-celled eukaryotes, meaning they have a nucleus. They can be producers or consumers. And there are many types of protists. Right? Examples include the amoeba, paramecium. Both of these types are consumers. Another type is Euglena, which is a producer. So to draw a picture, let's do an amoeba. So you can see, here's the cell membrane. But the difference is the Protista has a nucleus. So here's the nucleus, and it has ER, and it has mitochondria, has Golgi. So it has all these organelles, even though it's only one cell, it has all these organelles like the eubacteria. Inside the nucleus it has DNA, and it still has ribosomes that we use to make proteins. I always think the Protista kingdom is really interesting. So that's in the domain eukarya. But a difference is, the domain archaea just had the kingdom archaeobacteria under it. The domain bacteria just had the kingdom eubacteria under it. The domain eukarya has 4 kingdoms under it: Protista, fungi, plants, and animals. Okay, so fungi are next. Fungi are multicellular, meaning they have many cells. They're eukaryotes, meaning their cells have nucleuses, but they are all consumers because they break down food by secreting digestive enzymes on them. They're consumers, and they're a type of consumer known as decomposers. We have lots of examples. Mushrooms are fungi. Mold is a fungi. Athlete's foot, which is a disease people can get as a fungi. So here's an example of our fungi. Okay, it's made up of many cells. It's got a lot of cells in it. All the cells have nucleuses. And the way fungi work is they live on things, like they could live on a dead log. Here's my dead log. And these fungi secrete digestive enzymes that break down the wood, and then the fungi suck up the nutrients. That's why they're known as consumers. Okay. So fungi are still part of the domain eukarya. So eukarya contains protista and fungi. It also contains plants and animals. So plants are also multicellular. They're also eukaryotes, meaning they have organelles and a nucleus. But they are producers, because they do the process of photosynthesis using organelles called chloroplasts. Examples could be a pine tree, a sunflower, grass. These are all examples of plants. So if you think about a tree, okay, they're made up of many cells, and their cells take in light, they take in carbon dioxide, they take in water, and they produce sugar, glucose, and oxygen. The nice thing for plants is they can even use that sugar and oxygen to take back in to do respiration to make ATP. So plants can do photosynthesis and they can do respiration, so they're pretty special that way. The final kingdom on our list is the kingdom that we're most familiar with. The final kingdom on our list is the animal kingdom. Okay, and we know humans, we're part of the animal kingdom. Okay, so animals are multicellular. We're eukaryotes. We're consumers. Herbivores, omnivores, scavengers, right? And examples of animals include humans, include insects, include sea stars, include fish, right? Include horses. So many animal examples we can think of. Okay, include, oh guys, you know I can't draw. This is supposed to be a dog, but I can't draw. Looks kind of like a goat. I'll make it a goat. Okay, here's my goat. Animals, right, are multicellular. They are made up of many cells as well. But we can only take in food, and we can only do respiration. We can't do respiration and photosynthesis. So these are the four kingdoms inside the domain eukarya. We have the protista, which are mostly unicellular. They can be producers or consumers. Many of them can move. So here's one type. You can see the chloroplasts in here that can do photosynthesis. Here's a paramecium. You can see it has a nucleus. It has all sorts of structures that allows it to do respiration. So these are all examples of protists. They're the first eukaryotic organisms, and you can see nucleus, 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 nucleus. They all have nucleuses, although they're very, very different. Fungi, like we said, are multicellular eukaryotes. They're consumers. Yeast is a fungi. These mushrooms are fungi. They absorb nutrients from dead organic material. This is all examples of fungi. Yeast, bread mold, mushrooms, athlete's foot. Plants are eukaryotes that do photosynthesis. They have a cell wall, large vacuole, and chloroplasts. These are all examples of plants. More examples of plants. Plants are very, very varied. You have pine trees, you have moss, you have ferns, you have sunflowers. These are all plants in the plant kingdom. Animals are multicellular eukaryotes. They're consumers. They're able to move from place to place, but they don't have cell walls. We can only do respiration, not photosynthesis. So we'll start researching the animals in the biomes that you've selected. So here's some cells. This is from an animal cell, human body. Here's from a plant cell. Here are protist cells. Here's some bacteria cells. Animal, animal, mold, fungi. Okay. So these kingdoms are pretty interesting, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time learning about them. I'll include some videos for you to watch too if you're interested.